The wrestling world just witnessed something absolutely insane that nobody saw coming, and the entire arena erupted in complete chaos when Jon Moxley showed up on Monday Night Raw out of nowhere and went face to face with Bron Breakker while Paul Heyman stood there looking like he had just seen a ghost. If you thought you knew what was going to happen next in professional wrestling, you were dead wrong, because this moment changed everything, and you need to hear every single detail of what went down and what it means for the future of WWE. Before we dive into this crazy story, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because you don't want to miss any of the explosive updates coming your way. Monday Night Raw was already delivering an electric atmosphere, with the crowd absolutely losing their minds over the action in the ring, but nobody could have predicted what was about to happen when the lights suddenly dimmed and an unfamiliar entrance theme started blasting through the speakers. The confusion on everyone's faces was real, because this wasn't a WWE theme that anyone recognized, and the tension in the arena became thick as fans were trying to figure out who was coming out. Then through the curtain walked Jon Moxley in his signature jeans and leather jacket with that intense look in his eyes that told everyone he meant business, and the crowd went absolutely ballistic. Bron Breakker was standing in the middle of the ring cutting a promo about how he was the most dominant force in WWE and how nobody could touch him when Moxley's music hit, and you could see the shock register on Breakker's face immediately. Paul Heyman was at ringside doing what he does best, which is managing and talking, but even the wise man himself looked completely blindsided by what was happening. Moxley walked down that ramp with purpose and intent, and every step he took made the anticipation grow stronger, because everyone knew that when Moxley shows up somewhere, things are about to get real violent real fast. The history between these three men makes this moment even more significant, because Paul Heyman has connections that run deep throughout the wrestling industry, and his relationship with Moxley goes back years to when Moxley was in a completely different place in his career. Heyman knows exactly what Moxley is capable of, and seeing him appear on Raw clearly brought back memories and concerns about what this unpredictable force of nature might do. Bron Breakker, on the other hand, represents the new generation of WWE superstars with his incredible athleticism and raw power, but he's never faced anyone quite like Jon Moxley, who operates on a completely different level of intensity. Moxley stepped through the ropes and immediately got right in Bron Breakker's face, and the stare down that followed was absolutely intense, with neither man backing down an inch. You could cut the tension with a knife as these two warriors sized each other up, and the crowd was chanting and screaming at the top of their lungs because they knew they were witnessing something special. Breakker tried to maintain his composure and act like he wasn't impressed, but you could see in his eyes that he understood the gravity of the situation and who he was standing across from. Paul Heyman quickly grabbed a microphone and tried to interject himself into the situation, because that's what Paul Heyman does best, but even his legendary gift of gab seemed inadequate for this moment. Heyman started talking about respect and about how there are certain protocols that need to be followed, but Moxley just stared at him with that look that said he didn't care about any of that. The wise man was clearly trying to defuse the situation before it exploded, but Moxley snatched the microphone right out of his hands and the arena erupted again. What Moxley said next sent shockwaves through the entire wrestling world, because he didn't come to Raw just to make an appearance or shake hands. He called out Bron Breakker directly and told him that all the talk about being the most dominant force in WWE meant absolutely nothing until he stepped into the ring with someone who had been through real wars. Moxley talked about his career and the battles he's fought and the violence he's endured, and he made it crystal clear that Breakker hadn't faced anyone like him. The promo was raw and real and completely unfiltered in a way that felt different from typical WWE programming. Bron Breakker wasn't about to back down from this challenge, and he grabbed another microphone and fired right back at Moxley. Breakker talked about how he's been destroying everyone put in front of him and how his power and athleticism make him unstoppable regardless of who stands across the ring from him. He told Moxley that coming to Raw and trying to intimidate him was a huge mistake, because he's not afraid of anyone, including a so-called hardcore legend. The back and forth between these two was electric, and you could feel that this was building towards something massive. Paul Heyman was pacing back and forth at ringside, looking increasingly nervous because he could sense that this situation was spiraling out of his control. Heyman has been in this business for decades, and he's seen every type of situation imaginable, but even he seemed uncertain about how to handle what was unfolding. He kept trying to get Breakker's attention and signal to him, but Breakker was completely locked in on Moxley and wasn't paying attention to anything else around him. The confrontation escalated when Moxley took off his jacket and dropped it to the mat, which is always a sign that things are about to get physical. Breakker immediately got into a fighting stance, ready for whatever was coming, and the entire arena rose to their feet in anticipation. Security guards started rushing down to the ring because WWE officials clearly wanted to prevent this from turning into an all-out brawl before they could properly promote and schedule a match. The tension was so high that it felt like the arena itself might explode at any second. Just when it looked like Moxley and Breakker were going to start throwing punches, the Raw general manager's music hit, and out came Adam Pearce trying to restore order to the chaos. Pearce got on the microphone and demanded that everyone calm down and that this matter be handled professionally. He announced that if Moxley wanted a piece of Bron Breakker, he would get his opportunity, but it would happen at the upcoming premium live event under official match conditions. The crowd went absolutely insane at this announcement because they knew they were going to witness an incredible clash. Moxley nodded in agreement because that's exactly what he wanted from the beginning, and he stared down Breakker one more time before backing out of the ring. Breakker stood in the center of the ring flexing and showing off his physique, trying to send a message that he wasn't intimidated in the slightest. Paul Heyman was still looking shocked and concerned as he watched Moxley walk back up the ramp, and you could see the wheels turning in his head as he tried to figure out what this all meant for his client. The implications of this confrontation are enormous for WWE because Jon Moxley showing up on Raw represents a huge crossover moment that fans have been dreaming about for years. Moxley has built an incredible reputation outside of WWE for his hardcore style and his willingness to push boundaries in ways that most wrestlers won't. Bringing that energy and that attitude to Monday Night Raw creates fresh matchups and fresh storylines that the WWE Universe is hungry for. The match between Moxley and Breakker has the potential to be an absolute war that showcases two completely different styles colliding in the most violent way possible. Bron Breakker has been on an absolute tear in WWE, destroying opponents with his devastating spear and his incredible strength, but Moxley represents a different kind of challenge altogether. Breakker is used to overpowering his opponents with raw athleticism, but Moxley is someone who thrives in chaos and who actually gets more dangerous the more violent a match becomes. The contrast in styles and approaches makes this matchup fascinating from a pure wrestling perspective, and fans are already debating who has the advantage going into their eventual collision. Paul Heyman's involvement adds another layer of intrigue to this situation because his relationship with both men creates interesting dynamics. Heyman has worked with Moxley before and knows exactly what makes him tick and what motivates him, but he's also currently aligned with Bron Breakker and wants to see his client succeed. The wise man is going to have to use all of his strategic genius to prepare Breakker for what's coming because Moxley isn't just another opponent on the roster. Heyman's visible shock during the confrontation suggests that he understands the magnitude of this challenge and the danger that Moxley poses. The WWE Universe has been absolutely buzzing on social media since this confrontation happened, with fans sharing videos and screenshots and their reactions to what they witnessed. The fact that Moxley showed up on Raw without any prior announcement or build made it feel spontaneous and real in a way that wrestling sometimes lacks. Fans appreciate when things feel unpredictable and when moments happen that genuinely surprise them, and this was definitely one of those moments. The trending topics and the engagement numbers show that this storyline has captured people's attention in a major way. What makes this whole situation even more interesting is thinking about what comes next and how this storyline will develop over the coming weeks. Will Moxley continue to appear on Raw and torment Bron Breakker, or will WWE keep them separated until their big match to build anticipation? Will Paul Heyman try to manipulate the situation to give Breakker an advantage, or will Moxley's unpredictability make that impossible? These are the questions that have fans tuning in every week because they need to see how this plays out. The wrestling business thrives on these kinds of moments where reality and storyline blur together and where fans genuinely don't know what's going to happen next. Moxley's reputation for being willing to do absolutely anything in the ring combined with Breakker's explosive power creates a match that could easily steal the show at whatever event WWE books it for. The physicality is going to be off the charts, and both men are going to push each other to their absolute limits in ways that will have fans talking for months afterward. Looking at this from Bron Breakker's perspective, this is actually a huge opportunity for him, even though it's clearly a dangerous challenge. If Breakker can defeat Jon Moxley in a high-profile match, it would cement his status as a top-tier superstar and prove that he belongs in the main event picture. Breakker has all the tools to be a future world champion, but he needs those signature victories over respected opponents to truly establish himself as a legitimate threat to everyone on the roster. Moxley provides that opportunity because beating him would mean something significant to the fans and to the industry. For Jon Moxley, this appearance on Raw and this confrontation with Breakker represents a chance to show the WWE audience what they've been missing. Moxley has evolved tremendously as a performer since his last run with the company, and he's proven that he can be a main event player anywhere he goes. Coming back to WWE, even if it's just for a special appearance or a limited run, allows him to showcase his growth and his abilities on the biggest stage in professional wrestling. The fact that he chose Bron Breakker as his target shows that he's interested in working with the new generation and creating dream matches that fans want to see. Paul Heyman's role in all of this cannot be understated because he's the connective tissue that makes this whole angle work on multiple levels. Heyman's history with Moxley adds emotional depth, and his current alliance with Breakker creates natural conflict and drama. The wise man is going to have to walk a tightrope as he tries to guide his client through this dangerous situation while also dealing with his complicated feelings about Moxley returning to WWE programming. Every promo Heyman cuts and every piece of advice he gives to Breakker is going to be scrutinized by fans who understand the complex relationships at play. The production value and the presentation of this segment on Raw deserves credit because WWE knew exactly how to make this moment feel important and special. The lighting and the camera angles and the timing of everything created maximum impact and made sure that viewers at home felt the same intensity that the live crowd experienced. Wrestling is a visual medium, and when big moments are produced well, they resonate with audiences in powerful ways. This confrontation checked all the boxes in terms of how to present a major angle that gets people talking. As we look ahead to the eventual match between Jon Moxley and Bron Breakker, the possibilities are endless in terms of what kind of match they might have and what stipulations might be added. Will it be a straight wrestling match, or will they go hardcore and embrace the violent potential that both men bring to the table? Will there be interference from Paul Heyman or other wrestlers, or will WWE let these two warriors settle their issues one-on-one? The decisions that WWE makes about how to book this match will determine whether it becomes an instant classic or just another good match that people forget about quickly. The business side of this crossover appearance is fascinating to consider because it represents WWE's willingness to work with talent who have made names for themselves elsewhere and bring fresh energy to the product. The wrestling landscape has changed dramatically over the past several years, with multiple major promotions operating successfully and talent having more options than ever before. WWE, recognizing that fans want to see dream matches and special attractions, shows a level of flexibility that benefits everyone involved. Jon Moxley appearing on Raw opens the door for other potential crossover moments that could happen in the future. The raw emotion and intensity that Jon Moxley brings to everything he does is going to elevate everyone involved in this storyline. Bron Breakker is going to have to match that intensity and bring his own fire to their confrontations, or risk being overshadowed by Moxley's presence. Paul Heyman is going to have to deliver promos that capture the significance of what's happening and explain to the audience why this matters so much. Everyone involved has to be at their absolute best for this angle to reach its full potential and deliver the kind of moments that fans remember forever. The crowd reactions during their confrontation showed that fans are completely invested in seeing these two collide in an actual match. The energy in the arena was electric, and the anticipation for what comes next is already building to fever pitch levels. WWE has a responsibility to deliver on the promise of this confrontation and give fans the payoff they deserve after witnessing such an incredible setup. The match itself needs to live up to the hype and provide the kind of hard-hitting action that both Moxley and Breakker are known for delivering. Wrestling fans around the world are already fantasy booking this match in their heads and debating the possible outcomes. Some believe that Bron Breakker needs the victory to continue his momentum and establish himself as an unstoppable force. Others argue that Jon Moxley winning would be more impactful because it would show that experience and toughness still matter in professional wrestling. The fact that there are legitimate arguments for either man winning shows that WWE has created a well-balanced matchup where either result could work depending on where they want to take the story afterward. The legacy implications of this match are significant for both competitors because wins and losses in high-profile situations define careers and shape how performers are remembered. Bron Breakker is still early in his WWE run and is building his legacy one match at a time. Jon Moxley already has an established legacy but can add to it with a strong showing on WWE programming against one of their rising stars. Both men have everything to gain and everything to lose, which is exactly the kind of stakes that make professional wrestling compelling to watch. The shock on Paul Heyman's face during that initial confrontation tells you everything you need to know about how unexpected and significant this moment was. Heyman has been in countless situations throughout his career and has seen it all, but even he was caught off guard by Moxley's appearance. That genuine surprise translated to the audience and made the moment feel more real and more important than if it had been heavily telegraphed in advance. Wrestling works best when it can still surprise people and create water-cooler moments that everyone wants to discuss. This entire situation represents everything that's exciting about professional wrestling right now, with different styles colliding and fresh matchups being created and unpredictability being injected into weekly programming. Jon Moxley confronting Bron Breakker on Monday Night Raw while Paul Heyman stood there in shock is exactly the kind of moment that reminds fans why they fell in love with wrestling in the first place. The build to their eventual match is going to be must-see television, and the match itself has the potential to be an absolute classic that people talk about for years to come. Make sure you subscribe to stay updated on every development in this incredible storyline, because you absolutely cannot afford to miss what happens next.